Eric here with the Paperback Warrior blog and podcast. In this episode, I'm looking at my Alistair MacLean book collection. This is a companion to Paperback Warrior Podcast episode number 110, which dropped on November 25th, 2024. Okay, let's kick off the book examination with the author's first novel, HMS Ulysses. It was published in 1958, and this edition is a Fawcett Gold Medal from 1981. Number M2152. MacLean originally started this book as a short story, and the editor encouraged him to make it a novel. Fun fact, this book was adapted into a Japanese manga story. Then comes MacLean's second novel, The Guns of Navarone, originally published in 1957, and the film adaptation arrived in 1961. I do believe this paperback is from 1981. Of course, it's a Fawcett Gold Medal, Q3268. Every time I see this book's title, I just immediately think of the movie. It was so good. See the spine. And let's check here. Yeah, so it says 1957. Of course, mine's in 1881, which doesn't list there. The author's third novel, South by Java Head. This was originally published in 1958. My version is the Fawcett Gold Medal edition, and I think this was from 1978. The number on it was Q3504. See some quotes there. This book wasn't quite as successful as the author's first two novels, but still a respected effort decades later. The author's fourth novel is next. Now, this edition I'm showing you is the British version, which is titled The Last Frontier, originally published in 1959. My copy is the Fontana publication from 1973. You can see it has the photographic cover as opposed to more attractive paintings. This book was adapted into a film in 1961, which may correlate with the book's cover. Now, this same book was titled The Secret Ways in the U.S. Again, The Last Frontier was the British version. The Secret Ways is the U.S. version. Same book. My copy, of course, is the Fawcett Gold Medal paperback number M2155 from 1976. The author's next novel was the airplane disaster novel, Night Without End. The book was originally published in 1959. My copy of this novel, of course, is Fawcett Gold Medal, number 1-3710-4 from 1978. See on the back, it's got a black and white transition of the cover. There we go. The next work produced by MacLean was Fear is the Key, which was published in 1961. As you can see, this is another British paperback owned by the author. My copy is the Fontana edition from 1973. This book was adapted into a film in 1972, which I assume is probably correlating with the cover as well with this book. You can see here. The next novel MacLean published was The Golden Rendezvous in 1962. My copy is the Fawcett Crest edition 2-3055-4, and it is a first edition paperback. It's in really good shape. A film adaptation was released of this novel in 1977. Moving down the line, next up is 1962's The Satan Bug. This is a novel that MacLean released under his Ian Stewart pseudonym. Like The Dark Crusader, it was published later under MacLean's name to capitalize on his millionaire name. My copy is the Fawcett Gold Medal 1-4009-1 from 1981, I do believe. This book was also loosely adapted into a film in 1965. His next novel, of fiction anyway, was Ice Station Zebra, and it was published in 1963. This was another successful film adaptation. My edition of this book is Fawcett Crest T1188, And I think this is a first edition paperback. Book was adapted into film in 1968. It's the first edition of the, paperback with the movie referenced on it. Notice they switched up from Fawcett Gold Medal to Fawcett Crest with most of his books going forward. Next, When Eight Bells Toll. It was published in 1966. My edition is Fawcett Crest number M1464 from 1966. I think this is a third printing, according to my notes, but I'm not terribly sure on that. Next, Where Eagles Dare from 1966. Along with Guns of Navarone, I'd say the film adaptation of this book make up the author's mainstream reputation. We flip it over here, the back. It advertises the movie as well. My copy of Where Eagles Dare is Fawcett Crest book number T1206. Pretty nice spine on it. It's not in terrible shape. It's been around. All right. MacLean's next novel was a sequel to The Guns of Navarone. This is Force 10 from Navarone, published in 1968. My edition is the Fawcett Crest M1351 from 1968, and it's a reprint. This is probably MacLean's thickest book thus far. I should say it's not his next novel, it was just later. I also have a different edition of this book that I'm pretty fond of. I love this cover so much. This is Fawcett Crest number 0-449-23931-9 with a movie cover on it, published in 1978. I'm not sure why I'm reading you these codes, these serial codes, but I just am. I don't know why. Got them in my notes. There you go. Not a very successful movie. If I'm not mistaken, I think Harrison Ford was in this movie, but that's my guess. Puppet on a Chain was next from 1969. This was also made into a film in 1970. My edition that you can see here is Fontana from 1971. It's a snapshot from the film. Kind of a morbid cover. Next book was Caravan to Vacaris. This was published in 1970 and made into a film in 1974. My copy is the Fawcett Crest M1620 from 1971. I'm probably saying the book's title wrong. Next up, from the author, was Bear Island. This was published in 1971. My copy is Fawcett Crest number 2-3560-2. And I think this one was from 1982, if I'm not mistaken. This was adapted to film in 1979. There we go. After Bear Island, the author took a couple years to concentrate on nonfiction, and then he returned with The Way to Dusty Death, published in 1973. My copy is Fawcett Crest Q2092 from 1974. This was adapted into a made-for-TV movie in 1995, but the idea originally was to make it a film back in the 80s starring Sylvester Stallone. Next is Breakheart Pass from 1974. The book was adapted into a film in 1975. My version is Fawcett Crest Q2431 from 1975, I think. There we go. Next, Circus. This was published in 1975, and my edition is the Fontana from 1977. I really like the Fawcett version of this book because it has a guy, I guess like walking a balance beam, holding a a long staff for balance. And it's got a girl down on the bottom. It's a really cool cover. Next is The Golden Gate. It was originally published in 1976, the year I was born. My edition is the Fawcett Crest 2-3177-1 from 1981. Pretty colorful cover. I like the way they do the font here with the big orange. Same with this one, except it's in gold. This is Sea Witch, arguably the author's worst novel. Published in 1977. My version is Fawcett Crest number 2-3597-1. And according to my notes, this is from 1977. So maybe it's a first edition. Next was Athabasca, and you see that here. It was first published in 1980. Love the cover. My copy's Fawcett Crest 2-4429-6 from 1982. Kind of reminds me of a video game cover, like Atari or something back in the day. River of Death was the author's next book. It was published in 1981. This was also adapted into a film in 1989. My copy is Fawcett Crest 20684-X from 1988. Remember when this movie came out? It had Michael Dudikoff, the American Ninja. I really like that guy. Next is Partisans, originally published in 1982. My copy's Fawcett Crest 20342-5 from 1984. Part of this book was taken from a screenplay of another of MacLean's novels, but it was so far apart, like they weren't even remotely similar, that he took a part of the screenplay to make this book. Next is San Andreas, published in 1984. In terms of paperback page count, this is probably the biggest. It's the thickest of his books. My copy's Fawcett Crest 20970-9 from 1986. This is one of the later MacLean books, and it's kind of neat that it returns to nautical themes, just like his first novel. And then I've got this book as well. This one kind of went through a little bit of a court case controversy. The publisher put Alistair MacLean's name really in large print at the top, and then at the very bottom, they put the actual author, which is Alistair MacNeil. This is part of a series that MacLean kind of wrote a premise for. And then I think I mentioned this in my podcast episode. I go in more depth about this series and the books that came after this, but this kind of gives you an idea. I just have this one out of the series. Alistair MacNeil, Alistair MacLean. This was published after MacLean's death. So there you have it. My entire paperback collection of Alistair MacLean. Hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Take care and enjoy whatever it is you're doing.